Something is going right in Zimbabwe. The people are pushing back on how the government, or should I say some members of ZanuPF, are trying to extend the term of the president outside of what the constitution allows. According to the likes of Rutendo, out of all people, they have something to say about this. What are your thoughts on this move? Is this something that South Africa can support them with, or they can handle it? Take a look.
We will not tire until we deliver the Zimbabwe we want. We want a Zimbabwe where all of us will have opportunities for us to enjoy our country. You see Zimbabweans all over the world. South Africa even has a problem of Zimbabweans who are here. They are not here on their own will, but on the basis of the politics and the misgovernance happening across the Limpopo.
For many of you that follow Zimbabwean social media, you've heard this story that Rutendo, the ZanuPF apologist, has turned his back on ZanuPF and is fighting with the government of Zimbabwe. There have even been reasons that have been given that he's bitter that he was not given a position, and some are even saying that I am a CIA agent. Well, I'm here to set the record straight. First and foremost, I've never been a member of ZanuPF. Number two, I've never been a ZanuPF apologist. What I have been is a brand architect, a communication specialist that is trying to revive the image of Zimbabwe by telling the good Zimbabwe story. I was also fighting this negative sentiment because it was part and parcel of the reason why Zimbabwe was under sanctions that were supported by many people in the world, until we began to tell the other side of the story that then got to see people rallying with us to fight against those sanctions that were removed 2 years ago. The removal of those sanctions has benefited the Zimbabwean people, and it has also begun to benefit SADC. So what is it that I differ with ZanuPF so much about that made people think that we have had a fallout? Well, ZanuPF wants to change the constitution of Zimbabwe, and in this amendment, there's 90 days in which their proposal has been put to the public, and we are giving our public commentary. I have given my public commentary about the things that I'm not happy about in this amendment and the process through which the amendment is currently going. In clause 2, it says, the amendment establishes a parliamentary method of selecting a president. It specifies that the candidate must secure majority votes, and if no one achieves absolute majority, a runoff is held. The process is overseen by Chief Justice and designate judge, but the crux of the matter is they want Parliament to select the president instead of us, the people, electing the president that we want. This is very dangerous in a country like Zimbabwe that has got a lot of corruption, and more importantly, where our parliament is one of the least paid parliaments in the world. This renders them open to be bribed. So when we then begin to have a very wealthy elite, they can begin to bribe our parliamentarians to put into presidency anybody that has been elected among the parliamentarians. It also means that Parliament, which is supposed to have an oversight over the president, will no longer have an oversight over the president because the president and his friends might be bribing that parliament. You must also remember that the Zimbabwean people have always elected their president and parliament. This is something we cannot ignore. Zimbabweans know who they want, and they oftentimes trust their parliamentarians more than the president. So they need to continue choosing their own president rather than for us to have a fascist system where the richest will buy the parliament to give us a president that will not be able to remove. I actually agree with this clause of extending the term limit of the president and parliament from 5 years to 7 years. Because in Zimbabwe, we have elections every 5 years. And 2.5 years of that period is spent electioneering and then fighting and bickering about the outcome of those elections. So we oftentimes don't have a government or politicians who spend enough time building the country because of this. But where I have a problem is this. According to the constitution that was written by a committee called COPAC, that was chaired by the first secretary and the president of ZanuPF and the president of the country, Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa, they put guidelines in that if you want to change the term limit of a president or a parliament, you need to actually undertake a referendum. The problem we're currently seeing right now is ZanuPF is trying to say they do not need a referendum, but they can actually achieve this change through a parliamentary majority. That is not what the constitution that their own president chaired says. Another problem is that they want to ensure that this change to this term limit will be enjoyed by the current president, or what we call the incumbent. And according to the constitution, an incumbent cannot enjoy a change to term limit unless, of course, they undertake a referendum. But here's the problem. So according to the reading and understanding of the Constitution, for all these things to be achieved, you need 4 referendums that will be given to Parliament at 4 separate times. You need a referendum to extend the President's term limit. You need a referendum to extend the term limit of Parliament. Then you need 2 separate referendums to allow the Parliament and the President to enjoy the changes of these term limits in this current term. All these changes need to be done before it can happen. However, when people are saying this, people who oppose this amendment and people who want this amendment to be done according to the Constitution begin to speak and begin to gather and educate their constituencies on this discussion, ZanuPF and the government are stopping these people from having these discussions. They're arresting them, they're putting them in jail, and sometimes beating them and burning their premises. This I do not agree with, and one of the major reasons why I'm fighting with ZanuPF.
Because I'm a thingy of South Africa.
South African
Yeah, I've got an
citizen,
ID.
resident.
I've got an ID,
Okay.
so I can vote.
Can you vote in both countries?
Yes.
It was fucking unfair. That. Nangakwa, come sort out your boy.